Hey, this is Andrew Brown, and we are over on ChatGPT. I have a paid version of it. I don't remember what's available in the free tier. But the thing is, if you don't have the paid tier, just use whatever you can utilize here, because at the end of the day, you have to just work with what you got. And sometimes there's just stuff that you are going to use that works for you and doesn't work for someone else, whether that's paid or free. I'll give you an example. I want to use the open source model Gemma. I can't use it because in Hugging Face, every time I go over here and I look at my models, it's just not giving me access, right? I've been having pending since November 4th, right? And so you got to make work with whatever you got, okay? And so, just do your best. And that's your opportunity to document something that's really interesting and come back here. I'm going to be using GPT-4o. If you want to use O1 mini or even an older model, you absolutely can. But let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new issue. And this is going to be Sentence Constructor. And this time we're going to be using ChatGPT. So I'm just saying ChatGPT. And I'm going to leave this open to whatever you want to call it, 4.0 mini or whatever. Or if you can't even do this, just document the best you can of what you have here. And so we are going to create a prompt document for ChatGPT, GPT-4o. Okay, and so the first thing that we probably want to do is figure out how to best prompt it, because we looked at Llama's guide, but GPT must have their own. GPT-4o prompting, what do they call this? Prompting guide. Do we have that here? GPT-4o. And here it is, prompting engineering. So here it is. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back into this. I still have it open from before. I'm going to make a new folder. This is going to be ChatGPT. And I'm going to make a new README file. And I'm going to paste in this link. Okay, I'm going to follow the other pattern here just to make my life a little bit easier. We'll say ChatGPT Powered Assistant Guide. Whatever we learn, we should write it down, Assistant Guide. So which model? I'm using GPT-4o. So I'm just going to say I have the paid version of ChatGPT. And I want to use a model that, like, I could use 401 reasoning. I don't want to use 401 reasoning because it's slow, right? So if there's reasons as to why you're doing it, you tell yourself, I have a paid version of ChatGPT. GPT-4o is fast enough, and I don't want to use the O1 reasoning models because they have limited use per day. Okay, so and we don't want to have super intelligent reasoning here, but we can play around with it if you do. But I'm going to go ahead here and say prompting guides for this in particular. And let's see if there's anything that we can learn through here. So 6 strategies for better results. Include details in your query to get more relevant answers. Ask the model to adopt a persona. That's something we didn't tell it to do before. Use delimiters to clearly indicate distinct parts of the input. Specify the steps required to complete a task. Provide examples. Specify the desired length of output. Instruct the model to answer using reference text. Instruct the model to answer with citations from a reference text. I don't think we need citation, and we don't really need reference text either. Split complex tasks into smaller subtasks. So just as a good practice, decompose a complex system. Use intent classification to identify the thing. And so through state management, we can kind of tell it to do that, right? Give the model time to think. So that's another thing. Use external tools. So there's nothing in here in particular that's on us. Write clear instructions. So where's how do I add numbers in Excel? How do I add a row and stuff? So they're being very lengthy and explicit. Use the limiters to clearly indicate distinct parts. So quotation marks, XML tags, section tags. So they're not saying there's anything in particular that we have to use, right? So I'm going to go back over to here. I'm going to say, just like Meta AI, there are no specific formatting to best provide context. Okay. And so we're going to go ahead here and make our prompt. I'm just going to start with a markdown file. I'm going to bring over some of these things. So the first thing I want to bring over is our Japanese language teacher. The next thing I'm going to bring over is our language level, because I think that was working pretty well. We're going to bring over our instructions. Now, I'm not super happy with the way I wrote my instructions, but it's the best that I could do. But maybe we can use ChatGPT to improve them. And then we have an example. And the example's fine. It's exactly what we wanted to do. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this here. And maybe what we should do first is we should just use it as is and see how it does. So I'm going to go ahead here and copy this. And we're going to go over to ChatGPT. I'm going to go ahead and paste it in. And one thing we should consider is the size of our document. Now, we can also attach documents and have them referenced separately. But anyway, this is fine for now. And you can see it doesn't like some of my capitalization, but I don't think it matters. Also, I didn't write things perfectly. You can see there's spelling mistakes, but I'm going to go ahead and feed it in. I never noticed them, right? I'm dyslexic, so I never see this stuff. But let's see how it performs. And so far, it's looking pretty good. So did you see the raven this morning? They were looking at our garden. Did we even test this in the last video? I think I said we were going to test and we never ran it. But that's okay. Like if I didn't do it, then you go run and you take a look. But here we have miru, to see. Watari garasu. Oh, okay, that's for a raven. Watari garasu. Interesting. We have morning, kesa. Oh, this morning, kesa. And so here, I guess it's fine, like, because morning would be asa, but here it's giving us this morning, so that's fine. We have niwa, which is garden, that's correct, niwa. And we have miru, to look. So we have miru, to see, and miru, to look. It actually repeated it twice. Okay, so maybe that's one thing we'll have to make an adjustment here. Did you see the raven this morning? Okay, time, object, verb, past tense. They were looking at our garden. Subject. And notice that it's giving us the particles. I told it, I don't want the, well, we told Meta AI we didn't want the particles. But this is a problem we have that's carrying over. And then down below we have sentence. So focus on the conjugation of this into the past tense of the question. So it's giving away the answer. We need to figure out the tenses. Try constructing the sentence step by step. So the first thing I want to do is I just want to tell it a few things, like not to give away. And we could, again, copy this and provide this as our example, or we could go back and tweak the other one. But I'm going to go over here. And before we continue on, I just want to see if there's a way we can rewrite this. So, and we'll go back over to here. Is there a better way to write this for ChatGPT 4.0 for our prompt? Okay, and we'll paste this in here. We'll go ahead and hit enter. This is where we might want to use a more intelligent model for this, but here's an improved version, refined clarity and tailored for ChatGPT's clarity. So the student will provide an English sentence. Your task is to guide the student through into transcribing into Japanese. Do not provide the full transcription directly. Instead, offer step-by-step instructions. Create a table containing only this. Ensure the table includes the following columns. Use a dictionary form. Encourage independent thinking. So this is fine, but okay, how do you know that your changes are better? Like, how would it actually know? Bullet point, mixed goals, specific actions, guidelines without clear prioritization, focus on student-centric learning. Instructions, don't give away the transcription, lacks actionable detail. So add how to guide step-by-steps, provide, but the problem is if you don't do that, it will still do it. So I don't trust that it says that when it says that. The revised instructions explicitly restricts Romaji to vocabulary, reducing the risk of it. The revised version uses a consistent structure. And so, I just honestly don't trust what it's saying here. I don't think that this is correct, but I have seen folks do that. But the problem is, like, if we utilize this is more verbose, and I have to maintain this file, right? And so I want this to be a maintainable file. Obviously, I don't want to have spelling mistakes in here, and that's something we should correct. But I would probably rather just do iterations of this with another human and try to make it more compact and concise. Um, but yeah, there were a few issues here, which is we don't want the examples of so like one thing we can do is we could try to provide instructions about output, right? So we're starting to define a structure here. And if you look here, a little bit all over the place, sorry. But we go, sorry, down here, we have the vocabulary table, we have sentence structure, we have considerations. And so we basically have those three sections, right? And we can kind of hone in on those and help them out. Like obviously there's also this, the sentence structure. So we'll go back over to here and we have teaching instructions and we're going to say formatting instructions. And so we'll take some of the stuff over here. So we know that we have a table, provide a vocabulary. The table should only include this. So I go here and say, what do we use as in our example? We don't say, yeah, here we have cheat sheet, sentence structure, considerations. So I'm going to say vocabulary table. We have sentence structure, clues. Clues and considerations, right? So the formatted output will generally contain 3 parts. Vocabulary table, sentence structure example, sentence structure, clues, and considerations. Okay, and so now what we can do is then bring that structure down here. So don't give the transcription away. Provide a table. So I'll take this part out here. We'll paste it in here instead. Make the student, yeah, if the student asks for the answer, no, don't provide the particles in the vocabulary table. So this is, again, all table specific. So cut that out here. The table of vocabulary should only have the following fields. Okay, so there's also this as well. Paste it down here. Do not use Mermaji, except in the table of vocabulary. And so here we have this for the vocabulary table. And we want to say here, do not provide particles for the particles in the sentence structure. Okay, so that's the one change we want to make there. The other thing is try and provide a single bulleted list. A non-nested bulleted list. And the other thing here is try and leave out. You can talk about the vocabulary, but try to leave out the Japanese words because the student can refer to the vocabulary table. Okay, so this is our modified one here, and we'll go over and take a look and see what we changed. The number is pound, whoops, pound 2, I believe. It is pound 2, yeah. And so in here, let's just make sure that that shows up here, because usually when you do this, or is it 2, pound 2? No, whatever, it's fine. We, yeah, so here, what did we change? What did we change? Provided more information around the structure of the model, of the output. That's what we did. Okay. So we'll go ahead and commit that. So now we can go next and test it. So we'll go back over to the ChatGPT one, and we'll go ahead and grab this one in full. And so we'll go back over to here. We're going to paste it in, and we're going to go ahead and enter. Now let's see what we get. Oh, well, we have to make a new conversation, right? And so we'll go ahead and paste this in again. So here we have our vocabulary. It did give us, sometimes it's really, really, really hard to get to not do this text, and you'd have to provide it just more examples, basically. So now it says Tori, so, and then we have Karasu, so it's interesting that it's using a variant of it, but I mean, I guess that still kind of works. We can go to the Japanese dictionary and go find out what raven is. Raven. I'm not sure why we had such a long one from before. That's really interesting, because here we have Jicho for raven. So I'm not sure why we had such a complex one. But that's fine. But this one says Karasu. So that could be another way of saying, yeah, that is crow or raven. So we have a few variants of how we can actually say that, and that's totally fine. We have Keisa, Miru. Oh, Miru is being repeated twice, and so that might be something that we might want to tell it to not do. And so here we have subject, object, verb, past, and subject, verb, past, progressive, location. And so it's giving away the tenses of what it should be, right? And I don't want it to do that. So that will be something we'll need to fix. So we'll go over to here and just say in the sentence structure, do not provide tenses in the sentence structure. And we'll go back over to here. So it's like verb, past, progressive, like tenses or conjugations in the sentence structure. Okay. And then we go down here. Now we're starting to get something similar. So the first part of the sentence is asking about a past action of seeing. Think about how to conjugate to see in the past tense. So right away, it's already telling us about this. And the thing is that we don't want to get these clues right away. We want to only get clues later on. So again, this might require more fine tuning. I'm not sure if we'll get it in this video. But let's go ahead and see if these changes work. I mean, we only changed that. Let me see what else there is. I'll just close out some of these tabs here. I'm not sure why it's acting a little bit funny here. Maybe it's because of the window here. There we go. And so if we go up to here, yeah, it's just the one line that's been changed. So yeah, let's do a little bit more before we change something else. So maybe we'll try to actually do this. So what is our sentence that we want to do? This is, did you see the raven this morning? So in the sentence structure, it's saying subject, object, verb. Normally it would suggest that the location's at the front. I'm not sure why the location's on the end, right? That doesn't seem right to me. You know, isn't the location supposed to be at the start of the sentence structure? In Japanese, it's common for the location or time to come first for context, especially when saying the scene. Here's a breakdown. Okay, so then, but why did you provide it the other way? Like, why did it do that? I initially provided the other structure was to focus overall logically flow rather than strict adherence to typical Japanese sentence order. In Japanese, while it's customary to start with the time and location of context, there's flexibility depending on emphasis for style. So if the speaker wants to emphasize what was seen, then the object must take precedence. If the focus is when and where, then these would become first. And I actually haven't really heard this before. Generally, especially at beginner level, they want you to have location first, right? And so this is where we might want to actually introduce some stuff here. So, could you provide a list of example sentence structures for beginners to adhere to? And so the idea is that if we do this, then maybe we can put this back in our stuff. Okay, so, okay. Can you just give me the sentence structures? Can you give me the structures with just the example lines as a single list? Okay, but you're missing the whole line. Like, okay, so I didn't fully understand what I meant. No, that's not what I want. Okay, I want these lines. No, I want the lines, want these lines. Okay, so we'll go ahead and do that. There we go. Okay. So let's go ahead and copy this. And we'll go back over to here into our teaching instructions. And we're going to help it with the structure a little bit more. Clues and consideration. So we'll just close out this comparison here, and we'll go to clues and consideration. No, it's sentence structure, right? So okay, so here is an example of simple sentence structures, right? Remember to consider beginner level sentence structures, because that's not what it's doing. And even though we told it earlier what it was, sometimes it needs a little bit more information or repetition, or it could be that this is not good enough and we have to describe what the language level is. But here we have subject, adjective, and desu, which is fine, but we wouldn't do this. And again, it's trying to do the past, so we wouldn't do this. We wouldn't say progressive in here. And like, I don't know if we want this in here. We'll take this out. And we're saying verb, because it's just giving away too much stuff, right? And so this is a little bit better. But you can see, like, if you are trying to learn the language, you need to know enough about it, or you have to work with a teacher to actually know if this is any good. But here we have a better example. So we'll go ahead and say improved examples for sentence structure. All right. And so now what I'm going to do is go over here. And I mean, we have the Raven example, but the problem is now that we start including examples of what we have, it becomes kind of on the nose of what it will do. But we'll see what happens here. We'll try this again. And we'll go run this here now. And notice that our document's getting kind of large. So this is where you can run into some challenges where it's like, if you define states, then you could then provide conditional information that you provide so that the context is smaller. Or if you did fine tuning, if you had a model and you baked in a lot of examples and stuff, then you don't have to worry about having those issues. But let's break down this into manageable parts. So here we have asa, miru, karasu. I keep forgetting to tell it to not do the duplicates. So let's go back over to, did I commit it with the wrong number? Because I'm just in the habit of writing stuff here and I can't see our history here. If we go back over to here and I go back over to here, and I go to my commits. Oh, I didn't even give it any commit number. Well, that's a bummer. So yeah, try to remember to do your commits so that we can keep track of it. But if you lost, there's not that big of a deal. But anyway, we'll come back over to here into ChatGPT. And so that's fine. This is better. It's still doing this. It just will not stop doing that. And that's where we have to provide it more examples. So this is the first part of a question that is asking to seeing. Can you try constructing a sentence? Let's go try to construct it now. So we have, did you see a raven this morning? So we have asa, which is simpler. But remember before we had this morning, which was a little bit different. But maybe it knows that we're a beginner, so we don't need, what was it, keasa? So we have asa. So the morning is our location. I'm going to switch over to my Japanese keyboard here. And I'm going to type in ni. So this morning, the raven. Do we have raven? Yeah, we do. Now it's doing karasu. So notice that we have this version. Is that actually something we can also do as well? I think we can. I'm not sure if that's right. We might be able to look up this. So this is the kanji for raven. Okay. And we have karasu. Okay, so I guess it's correct. So yeah, we have a katakana version of raven. We have a kanji version, and then we have a hiragana version. That's interesting, right? But anyway, it kind of looks like a raven if you think about it. Well, maybe not. I don't know. But we have that, and we want to say that's the subject. So we'll say wa. And so we had morning, at the location of morning, the raven, did you see it? So miru, right? They were looking at our garden. So I'm going to put a period in here. And I'm going to look at, they were looking at our garden. So we have niwa, our garden. They were looking at our garden. So I'm going to say garden, wa. Does that mean the garden's looking? Well, let's see what happens when we do this. Let's go ahead and try this out. Great attempt. You're on the right track. Let's refine the step by step. The sentence structure is close, but needs some adjustments. To express, did you see the raven this morning? The verb miru is in the dictionary form, which is not the past tense. We know that's for sure. This morning, we should be marked as a time expression. It needs the past tense as a question. The object raven should be marked properly. So it's treating the raven as an object, but it's a living thing. So can we do that? So this morning should be marked as a time expression. Did you see? Needs to be past tense. I mean, would it actually be that? This could be improved to express they were looking at our garden. So the subject is missing of they, referring to the raven. Okay. And then down below here, they're giving us a lot of suggestions, which we don't exactly want. So here this says marks the morning. I could have swore that we did that. Now we have this. Ni marks it in the morning. O marks it as a raven. It uses the polite tense, and it's giving away the answer again. So here again, it's the problem where it's giving the stuff away, and we just got to keep working it to make it do what we want. And that could be just feeding it more and more examples, iterating on it, and saying like, how can I write this in a way that you better understand? But we're not really getting exactly what we want. We're at the 30-minute mark again. So, yeah, it just depends on what we focus on. But like, clearly there are different things that like another thing that we care about is like when we get it back, I wish it would tell us what it read out. So that might be something we might want to do. So formatting instructions, the formatted output will generally contain 3 parts: vocabulary table, sentence structure, clues and considerations, table, vocabulary. And so this is where I think that there should be different states, right? Where, you know, well, I don't know. We'll see here. Because the other thing is like I need to figure out like we have it really requires a lot of brain power here to figure this stuff out. And don't think that you can just use other prompts to generate this stuff out, because then that you get like really verbose, terrible prompts. Um, so I guess the thing is that if it returned, if the user attempts, we'll go over here. If the user attempts, uh, I'm going to go over to here to change my keyboard back to English. When the user makes an attempt, or when the student makes an attempt, uh, interpret their reading so they can see what they actually said. Okay, and so maybe that's enough to do that. I'm going to go ahead and try that, and so we'll just call this #2. Tell it to interpret the response. Another thing that is kind of driving me a bit crazy is with this vocabulary table is ensure there are no repeats. Like e.g. if miru verb is repeated twice, show it only once. And the other thing is like we saw crow, right? It's like try and use the simplest, if there is more than one version of a word, show the simplest form. Simplest, most common example. Okay, and I'm not sure if that would help with Raven, but again, we have to provide examples, and this just takes a lot of time to write. So I'm going to go ahead here and update my prompt, and yep, we're going to go ahead and just accept this here. And we'll go and copy this here, and we will paste this in to a new conversation here. And let's see what we get back. Now we still have the previous conversation, so what I can do here is kind of cheat, and we're going to copy this one here because I want to further it along, but it might actually give us a different vocabulary here. So now we have keisa, tori, miru. So tori just means bird, right? So instead of raven, it's just giving us bird, which is even easier. Then we have miteru, which is looking. And I'm actually surprised it didn't show us something similar to that before, but I would have thought it would have said mieru instead of miteru. And then we have watashi, anyway, this one is our. Because it's not watashi tachi, it's watashi. I don't know. I need a Japanese person here to help me, but I know that I'm pronouncing it wrong. But it's interesting that we got this variant here, right? And so I'm going to go ahead and paste this in and see what we get. Now, we are using Tori, so that's totally fine. So it says, your interpretation of your attempt. So in the morning, as a raven, I see. So in the morning, as for the raven, I see. Okay, as for the garden, I see. Okay, so this sentence, this verb, miru, is the dictionary form, which is not correct for past tense. Okay, and so we can adjust this here. I'm going to make a new attempt, and I'm going to switch this to keisa, which is a more natural way of saying it. It is actually more natural. And so instead of miru, I'm going to switch to my Japanese keyboard here for a second. And by the way, if you're trying to figure this out yourself, you can look up Japanese conjugations. Reverso, I think it's reverso. And so any of the words that we're looking for here, I can go here and type in like miru, and it'll give me those conjugations. So if I'm looking for the past tense one, which is past polite, I could copy this here, and we'll bring it on over to here once it loads. Not sure what's happening here. Okay, I had to refresh there, but I did just lose my, the last one I was writing here. So I'm gonna just grab this again here. And so here we have, again, that conjugation. So I'm just gonna copy that here, go over to here, and we'll swap that out as such. And I would have thought this would have been because I know it's like to look. Let me type this here, to look. We have to see, and then say to be seen, right? So this is with an E here, right? And so I figured that if we did this, I don't know if it's just an E in front of there, that we could do that. And all I'm looking for is to interpret, see like how it interprets it back, right? So we go back over to here. So now we have this morning, as for the raven, I saw it. As for the garden, it was visible. Okay, so not really getting exactly what I want. And also the translation here is very verbatim. And technically it's true, like how it says, as I saw it, but it kind of makes it hard, especially when you're early on and you just want the English version of it. But anyway, you can see kind of where we're going here with GPT-4o. I'd be very curious to see how a dumber model operates. So we could go here and try GPT-4 Legacy, or even I don't think minis are dumber. They're usually just faster. But we'll go here to GPT-4, ChatGPT-4, since I still have it available. Let's just see what happens if we dump this in, and let's see how close it gets. Okay, so we go here and we'll paste it in. Just give it a go. And like this one looks really good. And you know what's funny? Sometimes the dumber models perform better because they're not trying to do so many complicated things. So I'm gonna go over to here. I'm just gonna go ahead and copy our bad example, which is, I mean, this one's not that bad. It's not done, but I'm just saying we'll go ahead and use this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and paste that in. Let's take a look and see what happens. And so I honestly am kind of preferring GPT-4's output here. So it's really interesting how newer models not always better. We can go over here and try GPT-4o Mini. Okay. And we'll go ahead and copy this. And we'll paste it in. And we'll go ahead and hit enter. And so this one is good and it's fast. All right, so this one's fine. And we can go over to here. And we can grab this. And we'll paste it in. We'll hit enter. You're very close. Let's look at each part of the sentence. This morning, the raven saw the corrected version. So you can see it, GPT-4o Mini, it's starting to correct it, right? And it's not supposed to do that. So now we can see it this model. Let's go back to the last one. Did it correct the other one? I don't think it told us the answer, right? When using the time expression like this, you don't need this particle. You've used mini mashta, which is a polite form of it. However, the placement of the particle used with this should be adjusted. Yeah, it is using the wo, so I guess it is, or o, it is considered an object here. Here is how you could adjust your sentences. And since we're really close to the end, it's totally fine that it's doing that, but we might want to tell it to go further. But I guess where we get to 4o Mini, it's starting to kind of forget the rules that we set up for it, or we'd have to do a better job working with the prompt. So yeah, it's really hard to say, but obviously every single model you work with, you really have to work hard to get exactly what you want. For this, I think we are done. We're going to move over next to, we'll take a look at Claude. Again, you have to have a paid version of Claude to really effectively use it. I also don't know what this new project is over here. I'm just curious. Let's go, before we move on, let's just jump into this. JP Sentence Constructor. Because they're always adding new stuff, and I'm wondering if they're trying to do something that Claude has. You might not have this unless it's paid. So I'm going to go here and take a look. I'm just going to give it a moment here to create. I'll be back in just a moment. Oh, no, here we are. And so now we have it, and so it looks like, okay, so this is basically like Claude. And so the idea is that I can go here, and what I would do is I would just provide it everything but the last example here. A bit confusing because there's also GPTs. You can ask GPT to focus on certain topics or ask it to format in this way. And so now we have put in our sentence, or sorry, our structure here. And then we could upload files. So we could actually separate out our examples and put them in here instead. But I'll just say, The dog wants to eat the chicken. Okay, and let's see how it works. Okay, so it's doing exactly what we want. Still doing this, which is not exactly what we want. Okay, so it's just really collecting them here. Another thing that we could do is we could create GPTs, which just is explore GPTs, and we can create one here. And so we could share these with other folks in their configuration, but I'm not sure if they're always public. I think that they are, so I'm not really that interested in doing that, but um, it's nice to see that we can kind of collect that. And so all the stuff we could have just been doing here and then tweaking this every single time, which is totally fine. But obviously we can add our documents here. And so that might have been a good separation. So maybe that's one last thing we should do is I'm going to go here and just make a new file here and call this examples.md. And then we'll go over to here. And then we could just grab this out of here, right? And what's really interesting is like we could literally make an example file for each part, right? So that could really help us focus a little bit more. But we'll go over to here and I'll just paste this in here. And technically this is an XML file. That's all this is, right? So I can go here and just rename this to XML. XML. And now what I can do is go back over to here and I can add that file. So I'd have to download this file first. It's kind of interesting because this is taking a completely different structure from my original one. It's not performing as good as my original one, but it is there. We'll add that file. No, we already added it, so that's already there. And so now we can go ahead and say the car won't start because it's too cold outside. Not sure if that's really true, but we'll go ahead and do that. And it's working pretty well. So I think it's picking up that examples file for sure. But yeah, this is where we could then separate this out into separate example files. And that would be really interesting to try out, but we're out of time for this one. I want to move on to Anthropic Claude. And so we'll do that next. So we got sentence constructor, break out the files from separate the prompt document from the examples. Okay, and I'll see the next one and we'll be working in Anthropic Claude, okay?